Well, at 10 minutes to 9 a.m., as we head towards the news, we continue with the broadcast and the time of the week. We bring you Crime Talk, our weekly edition with eThekwini Secure, and we're going straight to be joined by Mohammed Batman Ismail. Mohammed, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Always nice to be on your show, Inayat.
Yes, Mohammed, this time of the year, we know student protests have become the norm, as we've seen over the years, as varsities start to open. But there are many concerns that students have. We've seen the Peace for Fall movement, but so many issues. And this is now becoming an occurrence that is taking place year after year.
Oh, absolutely. And, a lot of people are getting tired of it. And it's politically motivated and orchestrated, which is unfortunate. And the background, rather, or the issue around the protests, especially here at the UKZN, is twofold. Firstly, is the registration issue. And secondly, it's accommodation. And there's only so much that the universities can do to assist the students. And hence, they then resort to protest. But there's only a specific element that's behind the protests that's causing it. And there's a lot of other kids who want to just go to university and study, while there's a lot of disruptions happening. So on the one hand, it's politically motivated. On the other hand, people, who want to get going with their lives and their studies are saying, you know what, enough. We have had enough of these protests. Can we please just get going? And that's where we are right now. And the universities have taken a very strong stance against the protests by enhancing security at the facility.
Well, that security is absolutely necessary because when one looks at the nature of these protests, they tend to get pretty violent at times.
Oh, absolutely. It has been. What's been happening in the recent weeks, is that some of the students have been engaging in protests by disrupting classes. There's also been a lot of misinformation around it, where they said, students have come in with pangas and tear gas, which hasn't been the case, but they have been waving sticks, and the university has in itself done some strategic planning around it, where they've actually cleared the fields and the university property of stones and rocks and those kind of elements that can be used against by the staff or the buildings itself. Buses are being searched so that these contraband, if you want to call it, doesn't get smuggled onto the university property. So they've taken that precaution. Metro Police, SEPs have been on standby. I mean, if you just listen to what I'm saying, it sounds like a state of anarchy, and it gets to that point. So there's now a partnership between two student bodies, and I don't know if I should name them typically, regarding the protests, and they are instigating it every single time. So students sometimes come to the university and they want to register. So the university this year decided we're not going to have a physical registration and people coming onto that because following COVID and all those issues, and to ease the process, so they've done everything online. Now, online is not everybody's got access to register online, so they still want to come to the university. And then the student protesters, or the ones instigating the protests, start the whole thing going to say we want them to study on, we want them to register at the university, and then there's no accommodation, and then they're insisting that they must find accommodation. So these are the logistical problems that the university is faced with. And when it can't happen, they then smuggle themselves in to the university property and they start their protests. And the lectures have been disrupted. They're using fire hydrants to spray into the classrooms and go in there and bang on the desks and get the kids, getting the kids out. There's also health risks that go in there, and there's serious security concerns. So that's where we are with the student protests. When is it going to stop? It's only up to the students to decide when they want to stop that, but it's too far gone now, United.
Yes, you mentioned that this is a whole political agenda behind these protests, and especially living in a time that we are living in, the need for physical registrations for thousands to basically assemble just to register. It doesn't make sense because we know during the COVID era, in fact, many students actually dropped out of physically going to university during the COVID era because they managed to do things online and they don't want to get back to university.
You see, yeah, we don't, whether they want to study or not is a question that needs to be answered, or they just want to go there and have fun and disrupt things. But Online registration has proven to be very, very easy, very successful with a quick 20-minute turnaround time. But there has to be some kind of understanding that, look, not everybody has access to this facility. So we have to have some, physical registration process. But that's for the university to take care of. But what comes out of the protests, is severe damage to property, and that's where it is. And just at one of our safety and security meetings last night, we learned that one of the libraries that was burnt down or destroyed costed almost was like about 40 million rand worth in terms of repair. Just windows and other infrastructure that was damaged, over about 10 million rand. So while you want to come up with a good, solid education, not system rather, but a facility like a university. And the universities in South Africa are very, very good. We must understand that, despite it being very expensive. The fact is that it's costing money to repair. So why do you want to destroy structures that's going to enhance your education, going to enhance your careers? So something is wrong somewhere, and there is a disconnect with what students are doing and what they want to achieve in the long run, because you have to have your career, you have to do these things. So why destroy facilities that's going to benefit you?
Exactly. And the scary part is, we're talking about UKZN, but this can easily spiral to universities right across the entire country. And then we're looking at this state of anarchy in many parts around the country. And this is the scary part.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate, and I haven't seen reports of other universities where this has happened to the extent that it has in UKZN. We did hear that UCT there were some issues, but not to this extent that it's going to. I mean, if you remember last year or the year before, or even the year before that, Westville campus was completely destroyed with protests, and fires were lit. And now recently, the most recent cases, the students were out on the street lighting fires, lighting refuse from the bins. There was an incident where they got two buses to block the road, and they lit a fire in between the two buses. And what was going on there? I mean, the fear was that whether these buses would catch a light or not. So again, just to go back with security, the main gate has been the target, and to a point where the dean yesterday or the day before had to address the students to keep them calm, and they dispersed calmly, but then they came back and they started again. So again, I'm going to use this word, there's a disconnect with what they want to do and what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it. So it's just a matter of agitating all the time and inciting. And that is the problem. Where is the sustainable solution? Where's the negotiated settlement? And how, what do you do to make them understand that there's only so much rooms that the university has? We've got 50 rooms for accommodation, and there's a lot of private accommodation outside. That's also another controversy in communities, because see, there's student accommodation in between, residential homes, buildings have been put up, and these places have been let out to students. And that raises other problems, because you also have protests coming in there at any time of the year. I mean, I had one last year where these students, because there was no Wi-Fi operating in the building, and this was about a few streets away from me, and they actually started burning things in the yard of the building. Now, what would happen there? What if that fire spread and the whole building burnt and all the students died in a fire? I mean, imagine,
Mhm.
that's a tragedy. Why would we want to have that?
Well, Mohammed, we're going to be watching this space, and we will follow developments very closely as far as these protests go. But for now, we say Jazakallah for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mohammed Batman Ismail, eThekwini Secure, and that brings us straight on to 9 a.m. We're heading for the news. We've got Zahid Jedward standing by.